As you know, on Sunday night or Monday morning of every week, we post a new expository semiotics explaining why we would choose which lectionary readings. But in these readings, our dream is, and our desire is, to help you read the signs and fondle the details and spot the seminal metaphors, the condensed signs and the stories that are key for preaching to a digital culture. So strap on your seatbelt and join us as we prospect our passages for today. Leonard Sweet here on the 27th of August. I'd hoped to video this vlog, to tape this vlog at Ocean Grove. I just was there yesterday, and I was gonna try and do something on the Pilgrim Pathway, and it was just so crowded and so noisy. But I wanted you to get a feel for this incredible place, Ocean Grove Auditorium. One of the unique features. This is when camp meetings got respectable. I think the auditorium was built in 1864. Chautauqua was built in 1874. But then they really featured the culture, the arts, went away from evangelism and more kind of preaching. And it's a great story. Some of the greatest preachers. Dwight L. Moody preached there. Billy Sunday preached there. Reuben A. Torrey preached there. Amy Semple McPherson preached there. Catherine Coleman preached there. Norman Vincent preached there every summer for 30 straight years. Billy Graham preached there. I mean, so it was fun to preach there. And I wanted to bring you there with me, and instead, this is what you got. I'm in Dallas now, and so you didn't get the full Ocean Grove experience. Also, for me, so many stories come out of Ocean Grove. I actually have a chair that one of the gospel writers, her name is Eliza Hewitt, sat in at her Presbyterian church outside of Philadelphia. But in the summers, she went there, led children's crusades, children's meetings at Ocean Grove. And this is where the song, When We All Get to Heaven, this is where it was written. It was written in 1898. Eliza Hewitt wrote the lyrics. She was introduced by the song leader, John R. Sweeney, at Ocean Grove to Mrs. Emily Wilson. And Emily Wilson wrote the melody, and you know the rest of the story. By the way, it was published in 1898 in a collection called Pentecostal Praises. Okay, I love that. But there is a promenade there that goes right from the auditorium straight to the water. We're straight to the ocean. And it's called the Pilgrim Pathway. And that's its name. And that's part of remember the song, Sing the Wondrous Love of Jesus, Sing His Mercy and His Grace. In the mansions bright and blessed, He'll prepare for us a place when we all get to heaven. What a great day of rejoicing that will be when we all see Jesus. We'll sing and shout the victory. And the second one, while we walk the pilgrim pathway, clouds will overspread the sky, but when traveling days are over, not a shadow, not a sigh, when we all get to heaven. And she used to lead kind of children in these parades up and down the Pilgrim's Pathway, singing some of her hymns, some of other hymns. And again, I wanted to kind of bring you that as a background for this today, for this LenTalk, but instead you got a curtain. Sorry about that. I wish I could have done better. But I wanted to. This is a great passage. The lectionary passages. The one I want to focus on is the one from the Gospel, Matthew 16. And this is where Jesus founds his church. Now remember, I've said this before, Jesus founds his church on a pond, Petros, on this Petra. Petros, a little stone, on this Petra, big stone, I will build my church. And then he asks who do people say that the Son of Man is? And they say, some say John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets. He said to them, but who do you say that I am? And Simon Peter's one who answered, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered him, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. And I tell you, you are Peter, Petros, and on this rock, Petra, I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Then he sternly ordered the disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah, who he was. Now, you got three images that come together here, just collide. One is the image of the rock, and this pun on words, Petros, Petra, rock. The other is keys. And what does it mean that it sounds like here that Jesus is giving Peter himself the keys to the kingdom? And we have a whole kind of some brothers and sisters who actually have built a whole faith, a stream of Christianity on that basis. But in Matthew 18:18, just a little later in the story, he makes it clear that the keys to the kingdom are for everyone, for all his disciples, that we all get the keys. And the keys are able to loose and bind, to loosen and bind. Now, in the first century, loosen and bind doesn't mean what we hear immediately today. What it really meant technically and religiously was the ability to declare clean and unclean. The ability to say something was clean, the ability to say something was unclean. And if you said it was clean, you loosened it. If you said it was unclean, you were binding it. And so that was the literal meaning back then of loose and bind. But you got so you got the key metaphor, you got the rock metaphor, which is the founding of the church, and then you got this loosening. And of course, the overarching metaphor here, it's more than a metaphor, because Jesus is the anointed one, which is the meaning of Messiah. He is the Messiah, the very Son of God. I want to kind of find a way. This is classic semiotics here. I want to find a way. Can we bring all of these metaphors that Jesus is piling together in this mashup? It's a mashup of metaphors: key, rock, loosening, Messiah. Can we find a way to bring them together as part of this one great story? And that's our challenge right now. Now, the world, have you been listening, looking, reading? The world's on fire. It's not just Maui's on fire. And my heart just, I don't want to spend any more, but my heart just goes out to those people, to these brothers and sisters in Maui, and the failure of, first of all, the failure to put the power lines underground, which is what everybody ought to be doing now. But because the power lines is what started the fire. But then the failure of one level of government after another to come and to deal with this horrible fire, and maybe the most deadly fire that we've had in a long, long time. The world is on fire. And everywhere you look, there are rings of fire. Now, I wrote a book in 2019 called Rings of Fire. It has 25 rings of fire in it. When I sent it to the publisher, it had 50. If I were writing today, it would have 100. Now, I'm sure they'd knock it down to 25, but I do the best I can. So, but this is a world on fire, and the only thing that can fight fire is more fire. And this is you fight fire with fire, and this is the power of Pentecost here. The fire of the Spirit can beat back the fires of this world. If we only will let it. Fire fights fire. And we need the church to get on fire so it can fight a world and love a world on fire and fight back the fires of hatred and oppression and sin and suffering. But the metaphor that is kind of the companion metaphor to the world on fire metaphor is that we live in a culture in lockdown. And the world's been on lockdown before COVID-19 and the COVIDian era. We've had a culture in lockdown. We've had a church in lockdown. We've had homes in lockdown. We have minds in lockdown. We've had spirits in lockdown. We've had the human spirit in lockdown long before COVID. And what is the key that can open the lock, that can release us from these lockdowns? And we try everything. We try to spend more money. We try to spend less money. We try to divert attention over here. But there's only one key that can unlock this lockdown. Revelation 1:18, I am the living one. I was dead, and now look, I am alive forever, and I hold the keys. I hold the keys. In Revelation, there's only one worthy to open the locks, open the seventh scroll, to unlock it. Jesus holds the keys of life and death and Hades. This is Matthew 18:18. I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. He's telling this to all the disciples. So it's not just Peter that has the key that can unlock the lockdowns of our world. We each are given the key that can unleash and release the power of Jesus, the Messiah, in people's lives. Jesus is that skeleton key, the master key that can release all. Now, he's the master key. He's the skeleton key, but he needs us to put the key in the locks. I mean, this is where the story of the raising of Lazarus, we've got to read it carefully, because Jesus frees him from the power of death and the sting of the grave. He says, Lazarus, come out. And so Lazarus comes out. We don't know how he came out. Maybe he came out like a snake wiggling. Maybe he just levitated out. But the point is, he's still wrapped. So Jesus gets him out, calls him out, releases him from the power of death. So only Jesus can save. But then he looks to his disciples and says, okay, now you unwind him. You unbind him. We have the key. And Jesus is the key. But we gotta unbind. We gotta put it in the lock and unbind people. Unbind people from what's keeping them in their graves. And this is where the rock was rolled away. The rock there was a block, a roadblock, a rock block that kept Jesus in, but the power of the Spirit blew that rock out and unlocked that rock. We don't know how the word skeleton key originated. It's a kind of reference to the way in which keys that were master keys were kind of stripped down to their essential parts, like a skeleton. but it was a master key that opened up everything because it was so stripped down, and it could open all these locks. And the skeleton keys have been used as symbols of mystery, intrigue, the power to open doors otherwise closed. You could actually give people gifts in the past of skeleton keys, which are symbols of freedom and freedom and access and good luck. These were gifts that were given, these skeleton keys. They're also called church keys. and we get this word church key. It was really popularized during the Prohibition, as people would kind of cloak their language a little bit. But church keys are very ancient. The name church key comes from, keys used to be, and I have a key here. This is not, it's old, but it's not as old. In the first century, keys were like a foot long. They could be made of wood, they could be made of metal. Some were even made of rock that was carved. But the keys that would unlock the churches often had some religious symbols here. And see how this thing kind of has a little teeth right here? Well, the early ones actually had more in the shape of a heart or a triangle, and was easy then. The triangle, especially the Trinitarian symbol, became known as a church key. Now, there's another tradition that says no, they're called church keys because the monks who made the beer kept the kegs in the basement of the churches, and so when you went to get the beer, you asked for a church key that got you the unlocking of the beer for you to drink. But you can actually see the beginnings of a church key right here in this early shape. But this is as early as the first century. That's for sure. But skeleton key also reminds us that all of us have skeletons that we hide, and that we need the ultimate master key, the skeleton key, to release those skeletons. I was picked up here at the Dallas airport by a friend, and he when I was landed, I called him and he said, "You got any baggage?" And I said, "Well, I got a lot of baggage. We all got baggage, but there's only one baggage that I can show and I can pick up and carry, and so I'll meet me a baggage claim." But we all have secrets. We all have baggage. We come with baggage. There's nobody out there that doesn't have baggage. There's no marriage where people don't realize that each partner has baggage. And we have things that lie hidden and buried in our closets that need to be freed. And we need to be freed of them. And Jesus is the key to all mysteries, all secrets. Jesus is the skeleton key, the church key, that he gives to each one of us as he saves, but he says to us, unbind him. Use your key, use your church key to release them from their lockdown. The key to opening the door, the key to rolling away the stones that releases resurrection in people's lives. Jesus is Lord. That's the key. Jesus is Lord. That's the master key. Jesus is Lord. Jesus is the Messiah. That's the skeleton key. And it's also the keyhole through which we look at life. We thread, if you are using your church key, you're also threading everything that comes into your life by passing it through the eye of the needle of the gospel, the Jesus keyhole. And so we have here Jesus telling not just Peter, who is clearly the leader of the pack here, but he's not just given the key to Peter. He's given the key, look at Matthew 18:18, to all of us. That we have the church key. We have the church key. Jesus is the skeleton key, but we have that church key that can open up the rocks that block. The key to opening the door and rolling away the stone that releases resurrection in people's lives and frees them from all of their baggage that weighs us down, is the Rock of Ages. Is Jesus the rock and the skeleton key, the master key that can release a world, release a church, release the human spirit from lockdown. Jesus is the key, but he gave it to you to hold. So use your church key to unbind and unwind people that the master key, the skeleton key, has already freed.